Do you think the most peaceful place is somewhere easily reached? Wrong. The most magical places lie in coordinates seemingly forgotten by time. What drives people to build a village atop mist-shrouded mountains? A world completely free from the noise of traffic, or homes nestled beneath giant boulders, weighing thousands of tons? Ancient thatched roof cottages reflecting on calm canals where wooden boats glide gently through the morning mist. Ancient wooden houses reflecting on a glassy, icy lake shrouded in morning mist. Golden thatched roofs tucked deep within a snow-covered valley, worlds away from city life. This isn't an escape. It is the art of living in absolute harmony with nature. Join us on a journey to explore the most isolated and timeless villages on Earth. Because sometimes to find peace within, we must step toward the quiet corners at the edge of the world. The entire skyline of Zhangshans seems to move as huge windmill blades keep turning across the flat land with almost nothing blocking the view. Standing about 66 to 98 feet high, many of these windmills once worked as wind-powered factories, cutting wood, pressing oil, grinding spices, and processing limestone for paint. Between these wooden machines stand dark green houses with white trim surrounded by canals, drainage channels, and small wooden bridges crossing the water. Right beside these facades, water reaches close to the houses and reflects their green color across the canals, making parts of Zhangshans look as if they are floating on the water. Behind this old-fashioned appearance, some houses and windmills were actually moved here by trucks or barges from other places and rebuilt to save them from demolition. Thanks to this careful preservation, the green architecture, water, and tall windmills still clearly recreate the look of the Netherlands in the 18th and 19th centuries. To find the foundations of many houses in Fenghuang ancient town, you have to look down into the river, where wooden posts support the floors above. From those rows of posts, grey tiled roofs, wooden balconies, and layers of houses stretch along both banks and reflect on the water. The river also serves as the main route through the town, with stone bridges and separate stepping pillars that let people cross one step at a time. Leaving the river and entering the streets, the culture of the Miao and Tujia people appears through colorful clothing and carefully made silver jewelry. During the day, gray roofs, old walls, and mountain mist create a quiet mood before red lights and warm golden light change the color of the river at night. Moving along the river, layers of stilt houses and stone bridges continue along both banks, while tiled roofs and lights reflect clearly on the water. The coastline in Hamnoi is so narrow that many red fishing cabins extend beyond the rocky shore, standing on wooden posts above the cold water below. That bright red color once came from a low-cost paint made with iron oxide and fish oil, often used by fishing families to protect the wood from coastal weather. Connected to these cabins is the traditional fishing life, with outdoor wooden racks covered in cod that dry naturally in the cold wind and sunlight. Around this fishing community, red cabins, dark gray rock, white snow, and cold blue water create a very distinctive color palette. Above the Arctic Circle, daylight also changes greatly with the seasons, with summer bringing almost no sunset and winter bringing long periods of darkness. Within only a few hours, the weather can change from bright sunshine to heavy snow, strong winds, and white waves crashing against the rocky shore. You can see round doors rising from the ground, with almost no roofs in sight, making Hobbiton movie set look like an entire village hidden beneath the grass. Unlike many temporary film sets, this place was rebuilt with real brick, stone, and wood, then carefully maintained to create the feeling that people still live there. Following the shape of the land, curved dirt paths, wooden fences, and round doors almost remove every straight line, helping the buildings blend in to the rolling hills. Within this landscape, a large tree beside the water is actually made from a metal frame and artificial materials with thousands of leaves attached by hand. Throughout the gardens, Vegetables and plants are carefully maintained, keeping every small corner green, and making the village feel as if people still live there. Even the smoke rising from the small chimneys can be created artificially, completing the feeling of a fantasy world still alive among the hills. Hundreds of golden brown thatched roofs fill the old stone enclosure, making Naganupseong look like a giant field of mushrooms where people still live. Many families continue to live here, following a traditional farming lifestyle and turning the whole settlement into a true living museum. Within this landscape, taller tiled roofs rise above the sea of low thatched homes, showing how differences in social status were once reflected through house design and roof height. Beneath these roofs, curving dirt lanes pass between low, dry stone walls, helping the village remain almost free from paved roads. This historic appearance requires regular care because every winter, many thatched roofs are removed and covered with fresh straw. Stone walls, thatched roofs, dirt paths, and daily life still continuing today help Naganupseong preserve its historic character while remaining a real living community. One color is not enough in Kampung Pelangi because every house must use at least 3 different colors, turning the entire hillside into a dense rainbow. This color rule began with a renovation budget of only about $22,000, focused on houses, walkways, and many surfaces across the neighborhood. Even under the new paint-patched brick walls, old metal roofs and tangled electrical wires remain visible, creating a clear contrast between art and everyday life. Deeper inside the neighborhood, rainbow stairways and 3-dimensional murals turn the winding alleys into an open-air art gallery. In some places, the paths are less than 5 feet wide, bringing visitors very close to murals, house fronts, and daily activities outside the homes. The combination of sloping terrain simple architecture and color covering almost every surface gives Kampung Pelangi its distinctive and easily recognized rainbow appearance. The valley floor may already be covered in shadow, but Wengen still remains in sunlight on a mountain terrace nearly 4,265 feet high, where chalet roofs and meadows rise above the winter shade. Surrounding the village are peaks more than 13,123 feet high, embracing the terrace where Wengen spreads across the alpine slope. Beneath those peaks, the chalets still keep their traditional wooden exteriors, although many modern buildings use stronger structures inside to support heavy snow. Beyond the rooftops, green meadows are maintained by grazing cattle and by cutting grass on slopes as steep as 45 degrees. In the clear mountain air, the peaks across the valley can look much closer than they really are, even though the true distance is far greater than it first appears. Travel in and out of Wengen depends heavily on the mountain railway, making trains running across the alpine slopes a familiar part of daily village life. Like a wooden toy placed between rock and sea, Popeye Village lines a limestone slope with colorful houses beside clear turquoise water. This fairy tale setting was actually built in 1979 as the main set for the movie Popeye, released in 1980 and was kept after filming ended. From above, red, yellow, and green rooftops stand out against the pale limestone cliffs and the clear sea below. Moving down between these layers of houses, the buildings sit at different levels, connected by wooden walkways and steps that follow the slope. Looking more closely at the houses, many were originally built with wooden frames and panels for the movie set, so they were never designed for permanent living. To preserve this appearance, the colorful facades need regular maintenance against the sun and sea air, helping the entire film set keep its cartoon-like look between limestone cliffs and water. Fall covers go in layers of red and gold, while the white church steeple still stands out clearly in the narrow valley surrounded by mountain slopes. Just a few weeks later, the same landscape turns white as snow covers the rooftop streets and surrounding slopes. Against the snow, traditional wooden houses stand beside buildings influenced by Swiss and Austrian design with steep roofs that help snow slide away. On those same mountain slopes, maple forests turn red in fall as chlorophyll fades, allowing the red pigments in the leaves to become more visible. These forests also carry traces of history because many hillsides were once cleared for grazing during the 18th and 19th centuries before trees grew back. The change from colorful fall forests to a snow-covered winter gives Stowe two very different appearances within the same valley. It is hard to tell where the cliff ends and Gord's begins, because the entire village shares the same pale limestone color as the mountainside. The same stone was used in many old buildings with dry stone construction where pieces were stacked together without mortar. From the stone village above the pale hillside, drops toward a green valley filled with vineyards, olive groves, and lavender fields below. Back inside the village, narrow lanes run between stone walls about 33 to 49 feet high, while the rough paving helps provide better grip on the slopes. Along these lanes, houses stand at different levels, so two neighboring homes can share the same wall while their rooms sit on different floors. Looking back from outside the lanes, the light shifts the stone from pale gold to warmer tones, making Gordy's blend even more naturally into the mountainside. Many people believe that the real village of Eguisheim in France inspired the hometown of Belle in Beauty and the Beast. That fairy tale feeling comes from houses dating to the 16th and 17th centuries with exposed wooden frames and walls painted in bright colors. Beyond the individual houses, Eguisheim itself is built in concentric circles around an old fortified center. Because the streets are always curving, the view only opens a short distance ahead, so each turn reveals a new scene. Underfoot are grey cobblestones worn smooth over hundreds of years, while just above them stand walls painted yellow, pink, blue, and red, covered with fresh flowers. Beyond these colourful circular streets, the landscape opens into vineyards surrounding the village, connected to the long wine-growing tradition of the Alsace region. In Monsanto, people did not remove granite boulders weighing more than 100 tons to make space for houses, but turned them into roofs, walls, and steps. Instead of leveling the land, residents built walls between the rocks or used the spaces underneath them to create homes. This building style places tiled roofs, stone walls, and natural granite in layers across the steep slope, making the boundary between architecture and the landscape almost disappear. Between these layers of houses are narrow, winding lanes with many sections following natural gaps in the rocks instead of running straight. Along these lanes, the doors and windows of many old houses were made small to provide better protection in the past. Grey stone rooftop steps and moss-covered granite blend together, making Monsanto look like a village growing directly from the Rocky Mountain. The skyline of Alberobello is broken into thousands of grey cone-shaped stone roofs, making the entire town look like a sea of stone beehives. This unusual shape comes from dry stone construction without mortar, which once allowed residents to remove the roofs quickly to avoid taxes placed on permanent houses. On many cone roofs, white symbols shaped like suns, moons, or religious signs are painted directly onto the stone and are linked with luck and protection. Below them, whitewashed walls reflect the strong sunlight against grey stone roofs and colourful flower pots along the narrow lanes. Beneath many homes are rainwater tanks, which were important because the limestone ground has almost no natural surface water. Today, many trulli are still used as homes and businesses, helping Alberobello remain a complete living community within its historic architecture. The river almost turns back around Český Krumlov, forming a horseshoe-shaped bend that makes the historic center look like a peninsula surrounded by water. Inside this curve, more than 1,000 red-tiled roofs and pastel facades follow the sloping ground, creating layers of houses one above another. Between these layers of buildings, narrow, winding cobblestone streets constantly change the view as visitors walk deeper into the town. Along these streets, Gothic Renaissance and Baroque buildings still preserve facades, wall paintings, and forms that have survived for centuries. The steep terrain places rooftops and walkways at different levels, making the architecture appear stacked along the hillside. With relatively little damage from modern wars, Český Krumlov has preserved its medieval structure and historic appearance to the present day. Once, a layer of water covers the rice terraces, the mountainsides of Sapa turn into thousands of mirrors, reflecting the sky above valleys filled with mist. This landscape was shaped over generations as local people built terraces on slopes reaching about 45 to 60 degrees to hold both soil and water. To keep the terraces supplied, stream water is carried through bamboo pipes and then flows naturally from one level to the next, using the mountain slope. On the same steep terrain, many traditional houses are built deep into the mountainside, so the front entrance can sit at ground level, while the back rises several stories above the slope. More than 2,000 plant species grow around the homes and terraces, covering the mountainsides with layers of green that change through the seasons. Mist, sunlight, and clouds can shift throughout the day, leaving the terraces hidden in a sea of clouds at one moment and glowing in bands of light down the valley at the next. Ollantaytambo is not a silent ruin behind archaeological fences because people still live among stone streets first planned by the Inca in the 15th century. Around the old rooftops, terraces climb the mountain slopes in layers of stone, sand, and soil that help hold water and keep the ground more stable. Inside the settlement, stone walls lean inward by about 3 to 5 degrees, while trapezoid-shaped openings give the buildings a distinctive look and help them handle earthquakes. Looking up toward the cliffs, small food storage buildings stand where cold winds can reach them, appearing like tiny stone windows across the wide mountainside. Back down in the narrow lanes, stone channels still carry clear water through the settlement, filling the ancient streets with the gentle sound of flowing water. From above, rooftops, stone streets, and terraces blend into the mountainside, while the ancient layout of the settlement is said to resemble an ear of corn connected to Inca life. The lake and the Alps almost press against each other, leaving a strip of land less than 164 feet wide, where Hallstatt stacks colorful houses in layers along the slope. Just below them, the lake reaches about 410 feet deep, with a mirror-like surface reflecting rooftops, church towers, and the surrounding mountains. From the mountainside above, a waterfall runs through the village before flowing into the lake, creating a bright white ribbon between the houses and rocky cliffs. Along the steep slope, houses stand close together, while pear and apple trees are trained to grow flat against the walls to use every small space. This lack of space once made the lake the village's main transport route, so even weddings and funerals had to travel by boat. Along the waterfront, pink, yellow, and blue house fronts once helped boaters recognize their homes through the mist, and today they add color between the calm lake and the high mountains. From a distance, Geartorn does not look like a normal village, but more like a small forest floating on water, where boats glide past thatched roofs and flower gardens instead of cars. The green canals surrounding the village actually began as peat-cutting trenches dug centuries ago, which later filled with water and became the unique transport network seen today. This canal system once meant that male milk and many daily supplies had to be delivered to each home by boat, creating a way of life closely connected to the water. More than 170 curved wooden bridges connect the small pieces of land passing thatched houses hidden behind willow trees and flower-filled gardens. Thatched roofs were once linked with poor families, but today they are expensive architectural features that stand out among the green, water-green plants and warm brown roofs. Geartorn is beautiful because people chose to keep the water instead of filling it in, allowing canals, bridges, gardens, and homes to blend into one continuous landscape. Every building front in Mittenwald looks like a page standing upright along the street covered in pastel murals that once led Goethe to call the town a living picture book. These paintings once helped 18th century families make their homes look more elegant without building expensive stone columns or decorative reliefs. Above the colorful walls, steep tiled roofs help heavy snow slide away instead of building up for too long. Beyond those red rooftops, the view quickly shifts from the warm colors of the town to tall gray limestone cliffs rising behind it. On mountain slopes above about 3,281 feet, spruce trees grow slowly, creating tight wood grain that violin makers value for their instruments. The clear mountain air can also make the cliffs look much closer than they really are, even though a place that seems just behind the rooftops may take about 3 hours to reach on foot. Every 66 feet or so, a new view appears in Locorotondo because the streets keep curving instead of running in straight lines. From above, rows of white houses stand out against the red soil surrounding the hill, creating two strongly contrasting bands of color. The lime coating on the walls and roofs reflects up to about 90% of the sunlight, giving the town its bright appearance while helping the interiors stay cooler in summer. On the narrow houses, roofs sloping more than 45 degrees collect rainwater and guide it through gutters into underground tanks for the dry season. Deeper inside the white streets, red geraniums hanging beside windows and balconies add bright touches of color to the pale facades. From the edge of the hill, dry stone walls divide the vineyards into green patches, completing Locorotondo's distinctive landscape of white, red, and green. One side opens to the blue sea, while the other nearly touches a grey granite cliff with the red rooftops of Fjällbacka, resting in the narrow space between these two contrasting landscapes. The cliff formed about 900 million years ago, while the offshore islands were shaped by ice nearly 1 mile thick into smooth surfaces that resemble the backs of whales. During the coldest winters, the water between the islands can freeze, turning parts of the sea into places where local people can walk or skate. Back near the shore, many houses stand only about 3 to 7 feet from the cliff behind them, while their front sides open directly toward the sea. In this narrow space, red wooden houses stand out against grey granite and blue water, while traditional paint helps protect the wood from coastal moisture. Along the shoreline, there is almost no sand, so on sunny days, local people often rest on flat granite rocks warmed by the sun. Snow can cover Shirakawa-go more than 7 feet deep, but its thatched roofs rise at angles of up to 60 degrees, creating a triangular shape that is hard to mistake. Beneath those steep roofs, the wooden frames are joined with wooden joints and rope instead of iron nails, preserving a traditional building method passed down through generations. The houses are also built along the same axis, helping reduce the force of valley winds while receiving more sunlight so snow on the roofs can melt faster. In winter, brown wood and grey gold thatched roofs stand out against the white snow covering the valley. During special winter illumination nights, warm, golden lights glow through the snow, giving the entire village a much warmer appearance than during the day. To protect these thatched roofs, more than 50 high-pressure water sprayers are placed around the village and are regularly operated together to prevent fires. The farther you walk down through Clovelly, the more the rooftops below seem to rise to eye level as the pebble-paved street drops nearly 400 feet toward the sea at a grade of up to 20%. There are no cars or motorcycles on this steep street, so wooden sledges and donkeys still move goods slowly between the houses. Along both sides of the road stand houses dating back to the 16th century with whitewashed walls, grey tiled roofs, pastel doors, and flowering vines hanging across the facades. The steep terrain packs the houses so closely together that the chimney of a lower home can sit almost level with the window above, while some side passages are less than 3 feet wide. Preservation rules followed for generations have kept the doors and facades consistent, helping Clovelly maintain its distinctive historic character. At the bottom of the village, a stone breakwater keeps the harbour calmer, creating a clear contrast with the open sea and waves beyond it. Pyodo almost disappears when seen from a distance because its dark stone houses blend into a mountainside made from the same type of schist. This stone, formed about 300 million years ago, then was stacked into walls nearly 3 feet thick and laid across the roofs instead of tiles. Against the dark stone light blue doors and windows, add a distinctive touch of color linked to a type of paint widely used across the village during the 20th century. Among the brown and grey stone roofs, a white building stands out like a bright point between the tightly packed layers of houses on the mountainside. Between these layers of houses, narrow lanes, about 3 to 7 feet wide, often turn into stone steps leading people through the tightly packed village. After dark, warm yellow lights appear between the dark stone and blue windows, making Pyodo sparkle like a Christmas village. The ocean lies right in front of Cudillero, yet the village remains almost invisible from offshore because it sits deep inside a ravine between cliffs about 328 feet high. From the hillside above, layers of colorful houses cling to both sides of the ravine and descend toward the water, creating a distinctive stepped landscape. These bright colors came from leftover anti-fouling paint from fishing boats, which local fishermen reused on their homes to help protect them from moisture. Each house fits into a different opening on the rocky slope, causing the facades and rooftops to rise and fall with the terrain. This difference in height means the roof of a lower house can sometimes become usable space for the home above, creating layers of buildings that almost seem stacked on top of one another. To connect these levels, people walk through lanes less than 5 feet wide and a network of more than 400 stone steps instead of broad roads.